Hello everybody, my name is Dusk and welcome to another episode of Talon's video guide. In this guide we're going to go over the first 10 abilities of the Demon Hunter. The Demon Hunter is a high damage ranged hero that does a lot of damage from range, but is kind of weak, and so if you guys like playing the archer type class in RPGs, Witch Doctor is really fun and personally is my favorite hero, so I'm going to definitely be playing the Witch Doctor first. At level 1, you start out with this ability. It's called Hungering Arrow, and it's a hatred generating ability, which means you get 3 hatred whenever you hit an enemy with it. But basically what it does is it shoots out a homing arrow. It's called Hungering Arrow, and it does 150% of your damage, and it also has the 35% chance to pierce your target. So what that means is basically it's going to go through your target, and it's going to hit another target 35% of the time, dealing also 150% weapon damage. I'm not sure if it can pierce through multiple targets, though. At level 2, you get your first secondary ability. It's called Impale, and it costs 25 hatred. And it basically throws a weapon or whatever, and it does 250% damage as your weapon. This is a really high hatred count, or high hatred cost for an ability, so I'm not really a fan of it. But level 2, obviously, this is going to be your only secondary ability, so use it on big enemies, and use it wisely. Obviously, it's going to do a lot of damage, so you don't want to waste it on small enemies. No. At level 3, you get your second primary ability. It's called Entangling Shot. It also generates 3 hatred, but what it does is it imbues an arrow with a shadow energy, dealing 75% of your weapon damage and entangles it to 2 enemies, slowing their movement by 60% for 2 seconds. So what that actually does is when you hit an enemy, it's going to actually basically chain off to another enemy. It's going to bounce off to another enemy, and so if you're going to hit 2 enemies, you're already dealing 150% weapon damage, so it's going to be more damage than Hungering Arrow for sure. Now, I really like this ability just because it is able to hit multiple enemies, and it's because the Demon Hunter and how it works, she's really fragile, so you need to keep away from enemies, and this really helps going with that style of slowing their movement and just dealing additional damage based on it. At level 4, the Witch Doctor gets its first defense ability. It's called Caltrops, and it costs 6 Discipline. Keep in mind that Discipline slowly regenerates over time, so it's kind of like the mana bar of the Demon Hunter. And what it does is it just lays a Caltrop on the ground, which is just a trap. It lays it underneath you, so that's important. So basically, if you're going to hit someone with it, you want to lay it underneath you and back so they run into it. But what it does is enemies within 12 yards of it, they get slowed by 60%, and so it's going to be very useful for kiting and also lasts only for 6 seconds. At level 5, the Demon Hunter gets personally my favorite ability out of the first 10, but it's called Rapid Fire. It costs 20 hatred initially, and then it costs 10 hatred to sustain it per second while channeling. And so it's going to do 228% weapon damage as physical, and what it looks like is your bow just becomes a machine gun, and you just constantly shoot. And I really like this over the Impale because it's going to be your second secondary, and the reason for that is you're dealing constant damage rather than burst damage, and so constant damage is going to be really good against single targets as well as multiple targets, and it just looks really cool in the process. At level 6, you get your first runic version of Hungering Arrow, and Hungering Arrow, the first runic version is called Puncturing Arrow, and all it does is increase the piercing chance from 35% to 50%. So if you like using Hungering Arrow, this is really good just for hitting multiple targets. Otherwise, I prefer Entangling Shot as it's guaranteed to hit multiple targets. At level 7, you get your first runic version of Impale, and it's called Impact, and Impact has a 65% chance to knock back the target and stun for 1.5 seconds. So the difference between Impact and Rapid Fire is basically you're going to be using Impact more or less on single targets if you want to really stun them and keep them out of range, whereas Rapid Fire is going to be your general ability. I believe Rapid Fire has a lot more utility just because you can use it in all situations, whereas Impact is only going to be useful against single targets that you really want to keep away from yourself. At level 8, the Demon Hunter gets its second defense ability. It's called Smokescreen. It costs 14 Discipline, so it's going to be a higher Discipline count. And what it does is you basically become invisible for 2 seconds. Compared to Caltrops, I'm not really a fan of this, as you do become invisible, but you're not really doing anything with the enemies. It gives you a little bit of time to reposition yourself, but I like Caltrops just because you know you're going to be able to bait your enemies towards a certain direction, and then when they run into your Caltrops, you're going to be able to slow them. At level 9, the Demon Hunter gets 2 abilities. The first one is called Vault, and this is going to be the first ability in your hunting category, and it costs 8 Discipline, and what it does is you just tumble 35 yards, and so this is basically going to be your distance creator when enemies are all up in your grill and you want to get away from them. You tumble, otherwise if people are fleeing from you, you can also go in that direction. It's a pretty long range gap closer, and so use it wisely. Don't tumble into enemies, obviously. It does cost Discipline, so you don't want to be spamming that and then trying to use other Discipline costing abilities. Additionally, at level 9, you also get ability, the runic version of Entangling Shot, personally my favorite. It's called Chain Gang, and what it does is it increases your entanglement maximum enemy from 2 to 4. So basically you're going to be doing 75 damage to 4 enemies slowing all their movements by 60% for 2 seconds. It's going to be really nice on those groups of really small, fast enemies that you don't want getting close to you or getting away, for example. And it's kind of really good on the treasure demon, as it does slow the treasure demon down significantly. This is my favorite primary ability to use in the first 10 levels, and I highly recommend you guys try it out. At level 10, you get 2 passives. The first one is Tactical Advantage, and so whenever you use Vault, Smokescreen, or Backflip with Evasive Fire, you gain a 60% movement speed for 2 seconds. So this is really going to depend on if you like using Vault or Smokescreen or any of the other defense abilities a lot. This is going to help you get a lot of distance between you and the enemy. So this is really like a gap closer booster. And so if you like using those abilities a lot, this is going to be a great passive. Otherwise, the other passive is called Thrill of the Hunt, and every 10 seconds your next bow attack will immobilize your target for 3 seconds. So basically it's going to be a stun that'll happen every 10 seconds. I'm kind of a fan of Thrill of the Hunt just because I don't really need to use Tactical Advantage a lot. I find that the Demon Hunter's damage output is sufficient enough where you're going to be able to kill most things, especially with puncturing or with entangling shot, where they're not going to be able to get close to you. And so Thrill of the Hunt is going to basically help you with that even more, and I'd like slowing the enemies rather than just me moving faster. That's just my preference. I highly suggest you guys try both of them out and see what you guys like. Anyway though, my name is Dusk. If you guys have any questions or comments, feel free to leave it in the section below. Otherwise, I will see you guys later.